Welcome again to my channel. My name is Ruth, and today we will learn how to make ease fitting block. From our previous tutorial, we made patterns for the front as well as back. If you have not watched these tutorials, I have linked these videos in the description box below. As always, let us list the materials needed in this tutorial. We have pattern for our back and front. We have our curved ruler, pair of scissors, pencil. We have our square ruler, rubber, straight ruler. We have pins and tape measure, but also we have our pattern paper. These patterns were made for a close fitting block. We have our back and our front. Where our back, we have only our center dart, that is the waist dart, and for our front we have the two darts, center dart as well as the side seam dart. With easy fitting block, we will add more inches at the bust, at the waist as well as at the hip line. But also the measurement for our shoulder will change, so we need to draw a new arm side for our back as well as for the front. With the center dart, that's the waist dart, for the back as well as for the front, these are not going to be needed in this ease fitting block. Always remember to leave a space of 0.5 inches at the top of your pattern paper as well as at the sides of your paper. Now to start, we are going first to trace our pattern. We are starting with our front pattern. When tracing these patterns, first make sure that your center front touches the line at the sides and the tip of your neckline touches the horizontal line at the top. Then secure your pattern with pins, or you can use weights if you have, or any other methods which is easier for you. Now start to trace your pattern. Draw the darts using the carbon paper, or if you can do it with any other methods, you can do so. Mark the bust point as well as the center dart. Mark the points at the chest, at the bust line, waistline, and the hip line. Mark this point on either side of your pattern. Now remove the pins, and here is your traced pattern. With the aid of your straight ruler, curved ruler, and your square ruler, redraw the pattern so that it can be clearly seen. Draw the arm side, the neckline, draw the chest, the bust, the waist, and the hip line. Also draw the center dart. Now let us start to draw our pattern. From the intersection, label that intersection as A, and so with your tape measure from point A, measure half of the shoulder length measurement. From our original pattern, it was 7.5, but now you're going to add 0.25 more. Mark a point and label it as B. Then with your square ruler, square down from B. Then measure from B 1 inch, that is our shoulder slant, Now that point is your new shoulder line. So from this our new shoulder point, connect it to the neck point, as you can see, our new shoulder line is slightly higher than our original shoulder line. So if you had have measured from the original shoulder point 0.25, then our new shoulder point would have been slightly lower. On the chest line, add 0.25 more, put a mark, and then with your ruler extend up to that point and label it as your D. If you remember, on our original pattern we added 0.5 inches of ease on the bust line. So we had ease of 0.5 inches at our original pattern. In this easy fitting pattern, we need an ease of 0.75. So we are only going to add 0.25 inches at the bust line. Again, as we did with our chest line, we are going to extend the line and label the point as E. Now connect point C from the shoulder line, D from the chest, and E from the bust line with a new curve. First connect point C to point D, and then D to point E. Use your curved ruler, or if you don't have, you can draw freely by your hand. On the waistline, add 0.25 inches, put a mark by extending the waistline up to this point. Remember, on our original pattern we left 1 inch for dart, this center dart, but on our easy fitting pattern we are not going to use this dart, but also we added 0.25 of an ease. So on our waistline we have enough ease. So to clarify further, if your pattern ends at the waistline, then you need to consider addition of 0.25 inches at your waistline. But if it goes beyond your waistline up to the hip line, then there's no need for you to consider the waistline. At the hip line, add 0.75 of an inch. That is 3/4 of an inch. Remember, our original pattern we added 0.25 inches of ease. So to make 1 inch, addition of 1 inch at the hip line, we added 0.75 inches. Again, extend your hip line to the point that you have made. We have forgotten to label the line at the waist, the point at the waistline, label it as F, and the one at the hip line as G. Now with your ruler, connect point E at the bust line and G at the hip line with a straight line. So to clarify further, if your pattern ends at the waistline, now you need to connect point E to point F. I'm going to connect with the dotted lines. This is your pattern up to the waistline. But if your pattern goes beyond up to the hip line, then you connect up to point G. Now we need to draw our side seam. we will not use our center dart, only the side seam dart. Because this pattern is of the same size, our center point is at the same place. Just extend the line to the center point. That is the center of our side dart. Extend up to the new seam line, and this is going to be our new center of our side seam. Now on either side of this line, remember the difference, the size of our dart was 3 inches. So on either side of this line, measure 1.5 inches. Redraw these lines. They are going to differ slightly with the original lines on the original pattern paper, as you can see. So now we have our new side seam dart. Now this is our final pattern. Just to be so that you can see it clearly, we have drawn it with a red pencil. Now it is time to cut our pattern. Do not forget to label your pattern center front. Show the direction of the grain line, and since you're not going to use the center dart, get rid of it. Also, label your pattern as front, and just to differentiate it from the original one, label it as your easy fitting block. Now let us move to our back bodice. As we did with our front, first we are going to trace. Make sure your pattern is aligned well, the center back with the side line, and the tip of the shoulder with your top line. Secure your pattern. Ready to start tracing. Now trace your pattern. Draw the waist dart as well as the points for the bust, for the hip, and for the back line. Now remove the pins and redraw the pattern with the aid of your rulers so that it can be clearly seen, as we did with our front pattern. Now let us draw our back pattern. From the intersection, that is our point A, measure half of the shoulder length measurement plus 0.25. Our original half shoulder measurement was 7.5, so we are adding 0.25. Label that point as B. Then square down from that point B. Measure 1 inch from B and put a mark. This will be your new shoulder point. Now connect this new point to the neckline. Label the new shoulder point as C, and now on your back line, measure 0.25 of an inch, put a mark, and extend your back line to this point and label it as D. On the bust line, we are going to add only 0.25 inches. Remember, our original pattern had 0.5 inches of ease. Again, extend your bust line to the point and label that point as E. Now connect point C, D, and E. First connect point C to D and then D to E. On your waistline, add 0.25 inches. Extend the waistline to that point and label it as F. On the hip line, we are going to add 0.75 inches. Remember, our original pattern had 0.25 inches of ease. Extend the hip line to the point you've just made and label that point as G. Now connect point E to point G with a straight line. Now let us cut. Label your pattern, direction of the grain line, center back, and label it as your back is fitting bodice. Since we will not use the center dart, get rid of it. Here are our patterns ready for the back as well as for the front. We have added easy at the waist and bust, back as well as a hip line, so we have a new side seam for the back and for the front. We have also new arm side for the back and for the front, so we will need to draw a new sleeve pattern.